Hello, my kindred friend. Have you ever wondered why inner peace seems like such a luxury and a distant thing, even when the world outside appears to have calmed its waves? What if the very way you have been tirelessly searching for tranquility is the very thing silently separating you from touching it? We often live in a state of quiet overwhelm, a soul worn out by worries, or a lingering thirst for absolute stillness. Yet it never seems to stay long enough to warm our hearts. Tonight, I invite you to let the Buddha's wisdom awaken a long-held illusion in your consciousness. Peace is not the absence of turbulence or external adversity. True peace, in essence, is the ability to keep your heart steady and at ease, right in the midst of those turbulences. Now, please listen softly with an open heart. Do not strive to dissect or analyze, but let these words find their own way to soothe your soul exactly where you are, for the journey to find your inner anchor. Dissect does not begin by traveling further to search, but by having the courage to stop and see more deeply. Lesson 1. Stop arguing with reality. Dear friend, try to observe the moments when your heart is heaviest. Is there always a silent but fierce voice shouting inside, "This should not be happening, why me?" Or, "Everything was supposed to be different"? In the wisdom of mindfulness, we understand a liberating truth. Suffering does not come from pain alone. It comes from the mind's constant rejection and argument with what is currently existing. Look at the laws of nature. Reality is inherently neutral. It is simply unfolding according to its causes and conditions. However, when that reality does not match our expectations, the brain immediately activates threat mode. The entire nervous system is pushed into a state of red alert. Stress hormones like cortisol begin to surge, and muscles constrict. This silent resistance is the thing that truly robs you of your peace, not the event itself. I want you to visualize a powerful image. Imagine you are gripping a rope and using every ounce of your strength to pull it toward you, only to suddenly realize with shock, there is no one at the other end pulling back. All the tension, the marks on your palms, and your utter exhaustion are self-created in a war against a non-existent opponent. Reality is not fighting you. It is just being itself. When you keep pulling the rope of rejection, you are only damaging your own inner home. To heal this first step, I invite you to practice a small mantra whenever adversity visits. This too belongs. When you softly whisper these words, you are sending a peace signal to your nervous system, allowing it to lay down its arms and shift from a state of fighting to receiving. Ceasing the argument does not mean you surrender or are weak. It means you are wise enough to understand that peace can only sprout when you stop wanting to rearrange the entire universe to your liking. Tonight, try dropping that rope and let reality rest in its own operation. Lesson 2. The art of the pause before reacting. Dear friend, have you ever felt regret for a slip of the tongue in anger, or an impulsive act that once the storm of emotion passed you suddenly realized unintentionally hurt those you love most? We often live like pre-programmed machines. When an external stimulus touches us, we immediately react as a survival instinct. However, in the wisdom of mindfulness, there is a great secret about freedom I want to share with you. There is a soul-stirring quote from a psychological master. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Most of the nervous system's exhaustion comes from being in a state of rapid reaction. When something undesirable happens, the amygdala in the brain, the alarm center for danger, instantly rings its bell, pushing you into fight or flight. But when you actively create a pause, even for just 3 seconds, you are performing an act that shifts your internal biology. You are turning off that alarm speaker and awakening the prefrontal cortex, the center of wisdom and clarity. Kindred friend, mindfulness does not teach you to suppress or control emotions violently. On the contrary, it invites you to expand the space around those emotions. Instead of letting yourself be swept away by the floodwaters of anger or fear, choose to stand on the bank and observe that water. I invite you to practice a subtle but powerful exercise whenever you feel your heart starting to ripple. Silently name that emotion within your mind. When you see irritation rising, softly say, "This is anger." When you feel anxiety creeping in, whisper, "This is fear." Science has proven that the moment you correctly name your emotion, its intensity naturally decreases. You are no longer being that anger. You become the observer of the anger. Naming is how you create a safe buffer, so the mind is no longer led by emotions into the dark ruts of the past. Tonight, let that sacred space sprout in your consciousness. Remember, peace does not lie in the world ceasing to affect you, but in the very silence you courageously preserve before responding to the world. That is where true freedom begins. Lesson 3. Returning to the home of the present moment. Hello, my kindred friend. We have traveled together through the art of stopping and ceasing resistance. Now, I invite you into the heart of all mindful practice, the journey back to the present moment. Do you ever feel like a stranger in your own life? We seem to be everywhere, except right here. The human consciousness has a strange characteristic. It is like a pendulum that never stands still. When it swings toward the past, it brings back fragments of regret, heavy what-if questions. When it lunges toward the future, it draws ghosts of anxiety, scripts of a tomorrow that hasn't arrived. Thus, we are busy chasing the dead or the unborn, only to unintentionally miss the only true gift we have, life pulsing right now. I want to give you a mantra to etch into your heart. Peace is naturally very silent. It does not call out loudly. It only quietly waits for your attention. Indeed, peace is not something we must search for or create from nothingness. It is like the blue sky that always exists behind the gray clouds of anxiety. The problem is not that the sky disappeared, but that we spend too much energy observing the clouds instead of looking at the vast expanse of the sky. Peace asks nothing of you. It only waits for an acknowledgement from your side. My friend, there is a common illusion the mind weaves to deceive us. The notion that I must calm down first, then I can meditate or be present. We often wait for the internal storm to dissipate before daring to open the door to reality. But tonight, under the light of Buddhist wisdom, I invite you to completely reverse that belief. You do not need to be calm to be present. On the contrary, your courageous presence is what will make your mind calm. Contemplate this carefully. Presence is the only light source capable of dispelling the darkness of agitation. When you bring your attention back to the breath, to the sensation of your hands resting on your knees, or the warmth of the air touching your skin at that very moment, the pendulum of the mind is forced to stop. It cannot be in the present and in anxiety at the same time. These two states can never stand together on the same ground of consciousness. Therefore, presence is not a destination of practice. It is the path to therapy itself. When you choose to stay with reality, even if that reality contains a little ache in the body or a little restlessness in the heart, you are performing the most powerful act of self-healing. You are no longer running away from yourself. You allow everything to be as it is, and in that permission, your nervous system begins to be soothed. Tonight, try for once to stop being a hunter of peace. Become a leisurely observer. Look at the room you are sitting in, listen to the silent ticking of time, and feel the quiet pulse of life within you. Softly tell yourself, I have arrived. I am here. The silence you have sought for so long is actually just one heartbeat of attention away. Let that presence become a sacred home where you are allowed to shed all burdens and truly be yourself. Lesson 4. Reconciling with impermanence, the dance of change. Let's spend a moment observing the rhythm of the world outside. If you are in North America or Europe, perhaps you have many times stood still watching maple leaves change from green to deep red, then gently leaving the branch in the autumn chill. No branch resents the change, nor does any leaf try to cling to the bough to deny the winter. All things leisurely follow a silent and great law of the universe, anicca or impermanence. However, human consciousness operates in the opposite direction. We crave eternity. We want our health to remain as flexible as in our youth. We want loved ones to stay forever and never leave, and we want happy moments to be frozen for eternity. It is the conflict between the inevitable law of the universe and the desires of the ego that creates an endless storm of stress in our souls. I want you to listen and let this sentence touch the deepest part of your heart. When you crave eternity from things that are inherently temporary, disappointment is inevitable. Kindred friend, look deep into the roots of the anxieties surrounding you now. Do most of them come from a fear of loss? Fear of losing status? Fear of losing mental clarity? Or fear of change in relationships we trust? We suffer not because things change, but because we have signed the misguided contract with our minds, that everything must stand still for us to feel safe. To help you see this truth more clearly, I invite you to contemplate the metaphor of a river. Think of a river. It is always moving. Old water flows away. New water rushes in every second. Yet, we still call it a river. You see, a river is not a fixed object. It is a process. You are the same. Your body, your mind, and your emotions have never been a rigid block. You are a continuous flow of life. Old cells die to make way for rebirth. Old ideas vanish so new wisdom can sprout. When you understand you are a process rather than an object, you realize a liberating truth. You cannot lose yourself because you are that very constant transition. For those in their twilight years, impermanence often appears through wrinkles on the forehead or the slowness of feet. Instead of seeing that as a decline, I invite you to see it as ripening. Autumn is no less beautiful than spring. It simply carries a more contemplative and profound beauty. When you reconcile with impermanence, you will find the fear of being robbed by time gradually vanishing. You stop trying to grip what is leaving and learn to cherish things more deeply while they are still here. Reconciling with impermanence is also the key to soothing the fear of death. In Buddhist wisdom, death is not a terrifying end, but merely a bend in the river to prepare for a new journey. When you stop clinging to the false eternity of the physical form, you begin to touch the immortal part within your essence, where the world's turbulence can never reach. Tonight, try letting go of your silent resistance to the changes in your life. Look at changes in health or circumstance with eyes of tolerance and understanding. Do not demand reality to stand still for you to be at peace. Learn to be at peace right on the flow of reality. For when you stop arguing with the laws of the universe, you will realize impermanence itself is the door that brings you back to true liberation. Let yourself be the river, flowing leisurely through all rapids, knowing that the ocean of stillness always awaits you at the end of the journey. Lesson 5. Nourishing self-compassion. Try to quiet your heart and imagine your soul as a house you have inhabited for over half a century. In that house, Do you ever stop to feel the atmosphere you breathe every day? Is it a warm air of tolerance or the suffocation of self-blame? Most of us enter our later years with a very harsh psychological habit. We become our own most demanding judge. We judge the body for aging, judge the mind for forgetting, and torment ourselves over unfinished things in the past. However, kindred friend, I want you to etch this ultimate truth into your heart. You cannot perform the work of healing in an environment of constant criticism and judgment. Understand the silent mechanism of the nervous system. When you criticize yourself, the brain does not distinguish between an inner voice and an external threat. It immediately triggers threat mode, releasing cortisol and pushing you into a state of chronic stress. You cannot be at peace when your greatest enemy is residing right in your own thoughts. In the teachings of the Buddha, compassion, karuna, is not just directed outward. It must begin with ourselves. Self-compassion is not selfish, indulgence, or escaping responsibility. On the contrary, it is a courageous act to establish a safety mode for the nervous system. Only when the mind feels safe enough can the body's self-healing mechanisms operate. I invite you to perform a small practice that carries the power to shift your entire internal energy right now. If possible, gently place a hand over your chest, where your heart is beating rhythmically. Feel the warmth from your palm softly penetrating through your clothes, soothing the pulse of life. Now, whisper to yourself a gentle mantra. May I be kind to myself in this moment. Repeat it once more, very slowly. May I be kind to myself. Right now. Modern science has proven that this loving affirmation has the ability to reduce cortisol levels and soothe brain regions damaged by anxiety. When you choose kindness over judgment, you are performing a spiritual watering for the parched lands of your soul. You are telling every cell, I am here now. You don't need to strain anymore. You are allowed to be at peace. For those facing illness or loneliness, self-compassion is the sturdiest anchor. Do not wait for the world to understand you to feel relieved. Be the first to understand and embrace yourself. Treat your soul the way you would cherish your oldest soulmate, with absolute appreciation, patience, and tolerance. Tonight, before falling asleep, grant yourself a license to stop being perfect. Let self-reproach melt into the silence of the night. Remember, healing does not begin with you becoming better, but with you learning to love yourself right in the midst of your flaws. For in the light of compassion, no wound is unhealable, and no heart is unable to find its way back to original wellness. Lesson 6. Be a lamp unto yourself, the sovereignty of liberation. Kindred friend, we have traveled together through a long journey from reconciling with reality and creating space for the soul, to watering the weary nervous system with compassion. Now, I invite you to step onto the final rung, the most mature lesson on the path of mindfulness, finding the source of your own light. Look back at your life as a boat that has courageously crossed many vast oceans of the world. There is a deep instinct within each of us to always search for a firm anchor on the outside to feel secure. We seek assurance in finances, in the filial piety of children, in the promises of relatives, or even in a doctor's diagnosis. We mistakenly think, if I know for sure everything will be okay, then I can be at peace. However, there is a naked truth that perhaps in your later years you have begun to see clearly. This world inherently has no certainty. All external arrangements are like building sandcastles before a tidal wave. And this is when the most powerful mantra of this entire conversation appears to set you free. Peace is only truly present when you no longer demand absolute certainty to feel safe. Please listen carefully. The root of all anxiety does not lie in the events that happen, but in our inability to endure uncertainty. We fear the empty spaces of the future. We want answers to every why question. Yet, in Buddhist wisdom, the pinnacle of composure is when you can stand firm in the middle of life's fog without needing a single promise from the external environment. In the final moments of his life, the Buddha left a 1,000-year exhortation. Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own light. Have you ever wondered what that lamp actually is? It is not a supernatural power, nor is it profound academic knowledge. That lamp is awareness. I want you to etch a very deep philosophy. Awareness itself is the light. Happiness does not come from finding the answer to every problem of family or health. Happiness comes when you light the lamp of awareness to observe everything happening. Imagine you are in a dark room full of cluttered furniture. Lighting a candle does not make the furniture disappear, but it helps you see everything clearly so you are no longer tripping or afraid. Mindfulness is the same. It does not make illness or loneliness vanish immediately, but it gives you clear eyes to see through their nature. When you see through them, fear naturally dissolves. The shift from external reliance to self-reliance is a courageous journey. It requires you to stop being a spiritual beggar, always asking for stability from circumstances. Instead, you reclaim your own sovereignty. You realize that no matter how agitated the world outside is, no matter what tomorrow brings, the ability to be aware fully in this moment is always the safest harbor that no one can take from you. Do not look for peace through results. Look for peace through presence. Do not wait until all doubts vanish to feel okay. Learn to be okay even when you do not know what will happen next. That is the highest spiritual maturity. My friend, the wrinkles on your forehead, the age spots on your hands, they are the evidence of a traveler who has gone far enough to understand there is nowhere to go, nothing to hold on to, only an inner lamp that needs to be kept burning bright. Tonight, let that lamp of awareness warm your soul. Stop chasing the illusions of the world's certainty. Take a deep breath, feel the warm light of consciousness spreading through every cell, and softly tell yourself, I am here. I am my own lamp. And that is enough. When you dare to rely completely on your own pure essence, you will realize a miracle. You are no longer afraid of the darkness of time or impermanence, for light never fears the dark. You are that light, and that peace is truly eternal. Kindred friend, we have walked a long journey of wisdom together, from learning to stop arguing with reality and expanding the space of the pause to lighting the lamp of inner awareness. Now, as these shared words prepare to settle, I hope you etch this gentle truth into your heart. Inner peace is not a distant destination for you to tirelessly chase. Peace, in truth, is a state that is always present, only waiting for you to have the courage to let go and return. All the world's turbulence is just an outer shell. Your essence has always been pure and whole. If today's conversation helped your heart feel a part of its burden lightened, I invite you to continue the journey of mindfulness by clicking the subscribe button and sharing the lesson that made your mind feel most at ease in the comments below. Your presence and sharing are small sparks that help warm the community of friends finding their way back to themselves. May you have a life of ease, a mind always still, and may every step be soaked in liberation. Thank you for your trust and for listening. Goodbye, and wishing you a truly serene night.